This place is seeming a little different, at least, than the other ones. Oh, hello? CPU? Are you breaking on me? Stream's still up. Might have to restart the game sometime, I don't know. I don't know, this place seems a little bit different than the other ones. Stuff seems to be more well hidden. I would go back and, search again for everything. I feel like I did spend most of my time fighting and not actually looking. I probably just got distracted. But, we do still have a lot of Chaos Trials to actually do. So I'm going to go ahead and do those before we come back here. I'll do the 5. Oh. I'll do the 5 that we have lined up here, and then we'll come back here, do another pass of the area. I know we're going to have to fight again, but okay. We'll do another pass of the area, and then we'll move on to Crackmass Cove. Anything in here for me? Oh. How do I get up there? Oh, and another die. Hello. Oh my god. Yeah, I might just have to restart my game before I move on. I don't know if it's Tangle Drift or just, I don't know, my hardware today. How do I get up there? Do I have to jump all the way from like that flower to that flower or something crazy? See a portal? I saw like the corner of a portal when I was on the other side. I think that sound, that like whooshing sound, is that. So there must be some way to teleport onto or off of that. I don't know. We'll come back. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do the Chaos Trials. We have a lot to get through. We're probably not going to do all of them today, but we can get to maybe 3. Maybe 3 if I can get through them without dying. Not really sure how the game's going to get harder as we get through them, so I might only get through 1 today, if that. I don't know. Let's see. Let's find out. Oh my goodness. That wing gave me the hiccups. Not even that spicy, but it gave me the hiccups. You know when something not that spicy hits you in that in like just the right way to give you the hiccups right there? You know what I mean? Why is this taking so long to load? Am I crazy? Am I gonna have to restart? What's going on here? Well, my CPU's fine. My memory is kind of. Well, I guess that kind of makes sense. The game has been kind of freezing for a little bit. My memory is a little loaded up. CPU's fine though. I'm looking at the task manager, by the way. I know you can't see it on stream, but we got it pulled up. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'll give it another minute or something. Have to restart, then we'll restart. Oh. Is it just my screen? Like the game or something? Like the overlay's messed up? There it is. Holy moly, what is happening? Why is my game broken right now? I alt tabbed and I'm or shift tabbed and I'm stuck in the shift overlay right now. My back. Oh. Oh. I think we're back. Maybe. Oh my god. What's happening? Is this Unreal Engine again doing this? I feel like Unreal Engine does this. Like where one day it'll just run perfectly and another day it'll be broken. For like no reason. At least not that I know of. Not an expert on game engines. Okay. Let's go ahead and try this.
Are you prepared? We'll see.
If I really can't get through it because of the lag, then we will restart. You know, maybe it's not a bad idea to just restart before we even start. I'm thinking it was just because of the Tangle Drift area, whatever reason broke the game, and everything's kind of rubber banding back to normal, if that makes sense. Okay. Alright. Give it a second. Just give it a second. Alright. Seems like we're back to a reasonable state here, I think. Kind of can just let my brain go a little bit here. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think we're fine. So yeah, it's I guess it's been a minute, but I'm gonna circle back to vaguely what we were talking about earlier with the my own creative endeavors and how I feel within my own scene and city and all that stuff.
That's the way, you little rot blossom.
Just give me a second here while I work on this wing. So that one we don't want, because that one just prevents us from entering Savior's Soul, which we don't want at all. We still want to go for the crystals before the trials get like prohibitively hard. So I do want to see what the shrines do when we donate enough money to them. Anyways, yeah, here I am trying to make streaming and music work as a sort of, hobby career thing. I have been thinking about my projects a bit more. I would like to, work on them seriously and like put them out as serious creative endeavors. Actually, today after the stream, I'm probably going to work on them a little bit after my interview. At least a little bit, see what's going on. But if I'm honest, I've been kind of in a writer's block for a long time because there was something I wrote a long time ago. There was this project I started writing, or a piece of music I started writing, all the way back in like freshman or sophomore year of not high school, college. First, second year of college. And I finished it, I think, in my third year or my fourth year in like 2022. And I released it then as a finished project. It wasn't really up to my own ideal standards because what I was writing felt quite grand because, it was the biggest thing I had written at the time. And it was also the first thing I'd put out on under my own name. By this point, this was after the album that I wrote with my friends, that indie rock album. This was after that. So it wasn't like the absolute first thing I did as an artist. And, I've done like live performances with orchestras and bands, like wind ensemble bands, I mean, before that. So I'm not like a stranger to producing a performance or like, something of that in that vein, you know what I mean? So even though it was my first serious project as a solo artist, it wasn't my first project in general. So I had some kind of idea of what I wanted it to sound like, how I wanted to present it, how I wanted to release it, you know what I mean? But of course, working solo and creating everything yourself is a bit different than working with an ensemble or, your friends as a band and with a producer and all that stuff. So even though I did finish it and I released it, it's currently on Spotify and YouTube right now, actually. Hello? Game? Frames? Hello? Hello? Oh my goodness. This thing's gonna crash anytime. Any second now. So yeah, even though everything was released and I was able to finish the project ultimately, it still didn't come out quite as I had wanted because of the limitations on my own ability as a composer and producer and like software and hardware limitations. So, I released it on Spotify and streaming services and whatever. But then after that, I spent another couple months tweaking it, and I re-released it as a. I didn't release it as a remix version, but essentially it was kind of a remix because I won't go into like too much detail, like nauseating detail, but in short, the piece of music is like a long classical piece of music. It's 15 minutes long and features only classical like acoustic instruments like violin, cello, piano, lute, that kind of stuff. So originally it was going to use a string quartet, steel drums, drum kit, harp, synthesizers, and marimbas and vibraphones, like percussion, a lot of percussion instruments. But when that didn't turn out quite the way I wanted to, and the vision was a little scuffed, in my opinion, I went back a few months later, and then took another few months. So I guess you could say this process maybe took about a year long, like the better part of a year. It was on streaming for a couple months. I took it down, I worked on it, and I re-released it as the same song. The song's still exactly the same. There wasn't any huge changes in the form or the harmonies or anything like that, the rhythms. But I cleaned I cleaned the parts up so they're actually possible to play on real instruments because I was using digital VSTs. You know what I'm talking about? So they're actually possible to play on real instruments for the most part. Granted, I didn't actually record them with real instruments, so there might be some nuances there that I missed that need to be tweaked for a live performance, but for the most part, everything's there. Then I changed the marimba and vibraphone instruments to flute and clarinet, so the instrumentation's a bit different. I changed the harp to piano because the harp part originally was not possible because of physical limitations that the harp has. So now it is possible on piano. Steel drums are still there, string quartet's still there, drum kit's still there, synth is still there. Most of everything is the same. Again, I didn't change the actual song or the form or anything. So it was really just the instruments, and of course I cleaned up the production and the parts and everything, so it's a bit, I would say, more well put together, technically. Then that was re-released in summer of last year, I believe, 2024, if I remember correctly, which is what it says right now on Spotify and streaming. It says 2024, but in all reality, I wrote that back in like 2022 or something like that, 2021, 2022. And I say all of this to get to a point in that I would like to keep writing under that same screen name, that same project name. But I've been kind of on a writer's block because that project that I just described, that big old 15-minute piece, like I said, was the biggest thing that I'd written at the time. So I feel like if I continue under this screen name, everything that I write is going to have to be to that same standard. Not necessarily like 15 minutes for every song, but everything's got to be like well written, well crafted. It's got to have some kind of, some kind of reason to exist beyond just writing for fun. Some kind of musical, like, artistic statement or something like that, you know what I mean? So, for a while now, I've been toying with this idea of an album with 8 songs. It's a classical album, so it's all instrumental. It features string quartet, I think, for every song, and then there's going to be switching out of different instruments. So, like, the first song would have piano, the second song might also have piano, but maybe also has guitar in it, maybe some bass, something like that. Somewhere along the line, there's, like, synthesizers for more digital sound. Oh my goodness. I cannot tell what is happening right now. Maybe along the way there's like actual recordings instead of just digital recreations the entire time or something like that. So I've been working through that idea creatively for a while now.
One sip from the forbidden
And I
fountain
do
and they kick
plan
you out. What's in
to
there
release
for
that
us?
at some point. I hope I don't just abandon it. There's a good amount of progress put into it so far. But I've been blocked up for a little bit because, well, I don't really know why, but I think it has to do something. It has something to do with like the scale of everything that I would like to release. Because, like I said, if I want to release more music, it's gonna be more than just like making a beat and then releasing it as like some like a treat, like an audio treat. You know what I mean? Some people do that. They'll just create like a cool soundscape that goes on for a few minutes, and it's nice to listen to in the background. Helps you get through the day. Then it's kind of over, and that's all fun. I like that kind of stuff. But um, for me personally, I just want to release something with a bit more. I don't want to say substance because that implies that other stuff doesn't have substance. But just something to sink your ears into, for a lack of a better term. I really like when production and arrangements and parts are written in such a way that gives me a chance to go back and listen to it again and find new stuff that I didn't know about it before to appreciate it. So I want to write music like that so people will, come back to it, find new stuff to like about it. If there's enough of an audience, maybe they'll discuss it and talk about it amongst themselves, that kind of stuff. So this entire time I've been like writing stuff. I'm like, well, these ideas are fine. I can develop these. I can work with MuseScore and Reaper to use this, but like those of y'all who know about MuseScore and Reaper know that they're like quite limited relatively in their scope. MuseScore is like, at least, well, it's a bit better now, but back in the day it was definitely not industry standard. Had a lot of limitations with what you could do with the parts, how you can write them, the processing power of the application and all that stuff. So, like I said, it's a bit better now, but back in the day it really was a challenge to really get that working. And Reaper's a whole thing, because, I mean, Reaper's fine and all, industry standard and all that stuff, but I had to personally learn how to use it. So I had to go through like all the settings and like tweak everything to my liking, and I'm still learning how to actually utilize it and, you know, put it into my workflow effectively. So like here I am trying to just write a few fun parts, which I think would be cool to listen to and possibly play on an instrument if you want to. And then all of a sudden I'm over here trying to work with the programs and the actual software more than I am with the music. So that's been a roadblock for me, trying to actually get through the software to the actual music, if you know what I'm saying. So that's been a bit of a barrier for me. On top of course, keeping up with this as a project. I'm going to try to make it through the entire Chaos Trial, by the way, before I restart the game. I know it's a bit hard to watch, to say the least, but we're going to get through it.
It's just you and
But yeah,
me against the world, Mike.
it's like writing block on top of not knowing how to really utilize my software to its fullest potential, while also trying to keep up with this, while also trying to find a job. While also at the same time realizing that if I continue this project, this musical project, that I'm likely going to have to like keep up this standard of workflow and write like better and better arrangements, better parts over time, better songs that feel better to listen to, you know what I mean?
That one's mine. Let's get the loot.
Like basically if I'm going to start something, I got to finish it is what I'm thinking, you know? I've kind of already shown what I can do musically with that other piece that I released. So I'm like, well, I can't just phone it in and write some BS that like is serviceable but like not fun to listen to. I gotta write something nice. I gotta put my soul into it, you know what I mean? I gotta enjoy what I'm writing as much as I enjoy other people's works too, you know? That was a kind of garbage sentence, but I think you get what I'm saying. So yeah, the album, the album that I'm currently working on,
How is it?
it's like on this fence of like, do I continue and like basically kickstart this project to be something more serious and something that I'm actually going to commit to long term? Or is this going to be more of like a pet project that I just do at home and chip away at every once in a while for the sake of doing music for fun?
It's a little thing called acting. Maybe you've heard of it.
I'm leaning towards doing it more seriously, but it still needs a lot of work until it's done. I've got all the titles for the singles. I've got all the instrumentation pretty much locked in. But now comes the part where I need to actually figure out what the identity of the album is as an album. Because, you know, you could have a bunch of singles that are meant to be on the same album. But if you're not really paying attention, you could just write a lot of different songs that sound completely different from each other, with different production and different themes and all that stuff. And then just put them on the same album, which is fine and all, but for this project, I would like them all to be cohesive in a way. Not necessarily a full concept album like Pink Floyd would do, like with a whole character and everything, a whole storyline following that same character, or like Jordy Greep, I think just released a concept album like that as well. Not going to be like that, like super involved with characters and everything like that. But it's still going to have cohesion between the tracks musically. And I would like to reintroduce motifs and musical concepts which get developed later on type stuff, you know what I mean? So yeah, now I'm at that point, I would say, in the writing process. And it's tricky because before, where I would just put in one musical concept and it would just be that concept, and I could maybe develop it within the next 30 bars or something like that. Now every concept has the potential to be like a seed to something greater later on in the album. I could introduce a theme in the first track and it's like innocuous and just kind of a simple thing that you listen to. And later on, in track like 6, you hear that theme again, and then it puts the whole album in a different context because you're like, oh wait, these are kind of connected in a way, and then you start to listen to it differently. You know what I mean? And it's the first time I've ever done anything like that. So it's got me in a bit of a bind. I'm like, well, I want to introduce these ideas, but like something over here that I added earlier is kind of preventing me from doing that. And it would be nice to put something here, even though I don't really want to. You know? It's almost like a puzzle that I made myself. God, this is ridiculous. I'm sure this is not even fun to watch.